RPV TV presents Studio RPV, the Peninsula's local news show with co-hosts Maria Serrao and Liz Brown Swanson.
Hello, and thanks for joining us today on Studio RPV. I'm Maria Serrao.
And I'm Liz Brown Swanson. So
Liz,
good to be with you.
Happy October, November. How are you?
I know. It's just this fall is moving along. We've been super busy and having a good time along the way.
And Liz is already celebrating. She's done Trunk or Treat, one of her favorite events. So
always love this time of year.
Yeah, we're in the holiday season almost.
Yeah, Trunk or Treat was spectacular. And we've got an extra special story to share about this year's festivity at City Hall. So
can't wait. I can't wait to see Liz's
Yes.
her costume. You're gonna love it.
It's a story, all right.
It is.
Also coming up on Studio RPV, we have a very important guest joining us to talk about our city's landslide crisis. It's our city geologist. You're going to want to hear what he has to say about the ongoing situation.
All right, very good, Liz. We're going to take a very quick break, and we'll be right back.
Most people don't know the rules when riding an e-bike.
We want to let everyone know the rules when it comes to riding your e-bike. Never ride your e-bikes on the sidewalk. Your bike can go up to 20 miles per hour, so it's always recommended that you ride on the streets.
Always stop at stop signs and stoplights. Remember, you have to follow the same rules as cars and motorcycles.
Also, riding on the trails is never allowed. There are too many people and animals you can run into.
And remember to always wear a helmet.
It can save your life.
When you are riding e-bikes here on the hill, you should know the rules and follow them.
Remember, never have your cell phone out.
Distracted riding can lead to accidents. E-bikes are fun, so
Ride safely, RPV.
Ride safely, RPV. This public service announcement is brought to you by the Lomita Sheriff Station and RPV TV.
Welcome back to Studio RPV. We would like to welcome here for the first time in our studio our city's geologist, Mike Phipps. He is with Cotton Showers and Associates, and one busy guy, out there helping to navigate our city's landslide crisis right now. So thank you for taking the time to come out and just bring our community up to speed on what's going on as you've been studying our world famous landslide for a long time. Just the latest information you can share with us right now.
Sure. As all of you know, we've been drilling a lot of borings out in the landslide. There had not been really any exploration done over the last almost 25 years out there, and we had to do that to figure out how deep was the slide moving and where's the groundwater. What kind of groundwater pressure is there? So we've learned a tremendous amount from doing all those borings, and now we've got 8 deep dewatering wells in the ground. As of today, we're pumping 1 million gallons a day out of this landslide. That's a lot of water, so you add that up over time. And the good news is we're seeing a dramatic decrease in the rate of movement of the landslide. It's decreasing the most closest to the dewatering wells. So we know this is sort of a proven method that we can employ elsewhere on the landslide. So there's more wells coming online actually this week over on the Abalone Cove side. And I think the city is going to continue with the program with a few more dewatering wells. And the challenge is to see how does this perform as we go into the winter if we start getting winter rains. The forecast that was coming out from climatologists was a moderate La Nina year this year, which has to do with the ocean temperature. And that usually means the ocean temperatures, the sea surface is cooler, and we tend to have drier winters. But a recent forecast came out last week saying that we are going to probably have some atmospheric river type storms in January. This is what the forecast is.
We do not want to hear that.
Yeah, we don't need that.
So it's setting up sort of like the 22-23 season. And so I've told the city, we cannot assume that we're going to have a dry winter. We have to plan for the worst. So really what we're interested to see, we need to have instruments in the ground when all this rain starts, so we can see the landslide's response to the rains. And from that, really to figure out how big of a dewatering system do we need to have. Right. We're going to have 16 wells in the ground with this current situation. The question is, do we need 30? Do we need 50? What do we need to keep this thing in check once we get it very much slowed down.
I know you've been working on this for a very long time and studying the landslide. Can you give us a little history about that?
Yeah, and I've come full circle on
Yeah.
this. I graduated from USC with a degree in geology in 1986, and one of my professors there was Robert Douglas, who was the chairman of the Abalone Cove district for a while, and really facilitated a lot of that before he passed away, I think in around 2015, 2016. But right out of school, I went to work for Dr. James Swanson, who had a consulting firm in Van Nuys, and he was on the ACLAD technical panel at the time. So that's the Abalone Cove landslide abatement district. And he was also advising the city in doing peer review on some projects, big projects that were going on. And so, but he was also a very sought after expert witness for litigation matters. And so he was working on the Flying Triangle litigation that was going on at the time. This was 1986, and so I ended up mapping Flying Triangle and drilling some deep borings up there right out of school. And then drilled a deep boring up in the Island View tract. That's where I met Dr. Perry Elig, who was a former city geologist and prominent, professor of engineering geology in Southern California. He was the city geologist for a long time. And I ended up drilling some of the borings that are in Abalone Cove area. Wow. And it's crazy because now here we are 30-something years later, and I'm going through these literally binders of all these boring logs, and I'm finding my own logs, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the life of the landslide, Maria was mentioning about getting into the history for our viewers listening. I mean, this is a 500,000-year-old landslide, and because you've been studying it so long, things are evolving, including that now we know there's a deeper slide, right? So can you give us a little more information about sort of the history when the issues sort of started in the 50s, right, with the real movement for people that aren't really understanding and the boundary of it that is expanding in sort of the impacted communities? Yeah,
and there's debate in the technical community about when did the prehistoric slide actually move. There are several technical papers out there, one authored by Perry Elig. He says 120,000 years ago, but there's another paper that says the first movements might have been 700,000 years ago.
Wow.
Right.
So if we just talk a little bit about the geology, the Palos Verdes Peninsula has been actively uplifting vertically along the Palos Verdes fault and probably offshore fault system. It's been doing that for over 1 million years at 0.26 millimeters a year, I think, is the average uplift rate. So it doesn't seem like that's a hair, right? But over time, if you add that up over tens, hundreds of thousands of years, you're getting feet. So literally 1 million years ago, this peninsula wasn't here. And then it started poking up out of the ocean, and it was an island. And then as the uplift continued about 400,000 years ago, it was connected to the mainland. And as it's continued to uplift, you've had the ocean operating on the sides of the peninsula, and the footprint of that, what used to be a little island, is getting bigger as it rises up. And sea level's been going up and down during that time as well. So we know that there was major prehistoric landsliding on the south side of the peninsula, basically from Crest Road down to the ocean. The biggest issue started in 1956. There were a number of homes that had been built on the Portuguese Bend. Really, it was part of the Portuguese Bend Beach Club, I think. There were 140 homes south of PV Drive South, and literally west of the current beach club area that, they were all in septic systems. So all that water that they were using was going right into the ground. And the county was bringing Crenshaw Boulevard in from the crest of the hill, and it was going to tie in as a major arterial road, right into PV Drive South. And a lot of fill material, there was a lot of cuts, big road cuts. They pushed a lot of material out right onto the head of what is now the Portuguese Bend landslide. So the theory that was tried in courts was that all of this grading activity triggered that landslide. Well, it was probably a combination of that and high groundwater levels from heavy rains and also all of the septic systems. So that landslide started moving in 1956, and then Klondike Canyon landslide started moving around 1979 after periods of heavy rain. Abalone Cove was about the same time. And so you had these three separate landslides that were sort of moved independently. But the difference today is, and what I started to realize when I was, a few years ago, we were getting calls from the open space management people at the city saying, oh, we've got this fissure on a trail. We're trying to figure out what's going on. There's a ground crack. So I started mapping these things in and pretty soon started connecting the dots everywhere I would see one of these and said like, gosh, this is movement in an area that really hasn't been moving in the past. So we realized the slide is bigger because we knew it was part of the prehistoric landslide. It's bigger, it's wider, and then we started seeing this thing coming out of the ocean at the toe next to Portuguese Bend Beach Club that literally the land was uplifting out of the ocean.
You're talking about that, Maria. Mike took me out for a day in the life of being with our city geologist, and he took me to these critical points of the slide and the boundary. We were at the toe of the slide and overlooking Portuguese Bend Beach Club, where you see this incredible new formation of the beach. And we also went up into Seaview, where I live. We mention this every show, that's the neighborhood and the impacted residents there, where we were at that intersection where we see all over the world now the media that is showing this spot where it's so dramatic, where the homes have been red tagged. And you gave me sort of an amazing explanation of why it's happening, where it's happening, in the affected neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
Well, and that was kind of my question is, why does it happen in one place, but maybe a half a mile down the road? What's the reason for that?
It's all about the underlying geological conditions.
Okay.
The main formation that overlies most of the peninsula is this formation called the Monterey Formation, which is extensive up and down the coast of California. It's the greatest oil-producing rock formation in California. But here, because of all that uplift, it's been folded into all those stratigraphic layers of sedimentary rock are bent. And so on the south side, it dips towards the ocean. And within that formation, there are some volcanic ash layers that have altered over the millennia and turned into clay. And it's a really weak clay. And so you take the combination of a weak clay dipping towards the ocean and adding some water to it, with rainfall and such, those are the conditions ripe for triggering landslides. Plus you have the erosion by the ocean at the toe. So that's why it's happening there. The weak clay layer doesn't exist everywhere on the peninsula.
Right.
But it's what led to the prehistoric sliding and what we're dealing with today. But the difference is we now know with all these borings, what we suspected was this is a deeper slide. It's literally in the Portuguese Bend area, it's about twice as deep as had been previously modeled with hundreds of borings, before.
Every city council meeting, he brings reports and updates, and the residents are there to impact it. It's so challenging right now to see the affected communities with hundreds of homeowners,
of course,
without de-energized, without power, without utilities in their homes. It's so emotional for the whole community right now, and you're coming out, hopefully going to be the bearer of good news. We asked you before the show, because we often hear, you can't really ever slow this slide, but, you can't stop a slide like this, but you can slow it. But you were optimistic and said, no, possibly you can stop this slide.
Yeah, we've had such amazing success with even the initial 6 dewatering wells that went in really at the toe of the Portuguese Bend slide area. The Klondike Canyon District also has pumping wells, and between what they've been doing and what has happened with the 6 dewatering wells, we've actually stopped the Klondike Canyon landslide. It's not moving anymore.
Wow.
As of October 13th, which is amazing news.
Yes.
And we actually saw a point in the archery club that had stopped moving, but then it picked up again a little bit in this last reading that we got. So what we know is we can slow it down substantially. In Klondike Canyon, it appears we've stopped it. The Abalone Cove area is moving the fastest still because their wells have been offline because of a loss of power, and it's very expensive for them to run generators to run the wells.
Right.
All that diesel fuel, I don't think they can afford to do that. So we're bringing 2 new wells online over there, and hopefully we'll see the same type of slowdown because it was immediate. in Portuguese Bend area.
Right.
I mean, literally right after the first well came online on September 13th, and a month later we had, the whole landslide had slowed anywhere from 60 to 100% in the area of those wells. So, one of the points actually stopping. So, do I think we can stop it? I do. I think we can. If you could get enough dewatering in the ground, that's excuse me. That's a form of what we call active dewatering. It's more expensive to pull the water out once it's gotten in. So what we also need to do is, if we can slow it down, we also need to take measures which are passive dewatering measures to keep the water from getting in the first place. So all this water flows down the natural canyons coming off the crest of the peninsula and goes right into the back of the landslide.
Yeah.
Every time it rains, all that rain that percolates into the landslide, whether it's in the canyons or just on the ground, it adds weight. So we know that the state of stability will decrease some once it starts raining. The question is, how much water can we keep from getting in, and how much have we pulled out?
And that's with fissure filling. That was important.
Yes.
Lining the canyons, all of that we hear our residents expect.
That's right.
And also the city, when you watch council meetings, they're saying this is bigger than our city to address. It's
Absolutely.
so huge, and trying to pull resources and funds. And, we mentioned earlier, like you met with the state geologist, just getting as much information as you can for solutions, right?
Yes.
Because we've got to work on this together. She was saying before the show started, too, that she once considered being a geologist. I was wondering why you
inspired
decided to take this on. And
that's funny. So, when I was coming out of high school, I was interested in earth science. I actually wanted to be a weatherman.
Okay.
There you take it.
You're in the perfect place then. You're in the studio.
I was always infatuated with the weather. I learned a lot about it. I consider myself an amateur weather buff, and I follow it closely because it affects what I do and our business, And but I was influenced when I went to college. They didn't have an atmospheric science program, so I said, "Oh, what's the next closest thing? Okay, I'll try geology."
Wow!
And I immediately got interested. But I was my grandmother on my mother's side. She actually graduated with a degree in geology from the University of Wyoming in 1926.
Wow!
So I had my grandmother taking me to rock and mineral shows when I was a kid.
That is a rockin' grandmother.
Exactly.
Doing trips across the western U.S. and she's just pointing out all the geology everywhere. I was very influenced by her, and then once I got into school, the curriculum was geared towards putting you out in the oil patch to become exploration geologists. But the price of oil was so depressed in the early 80s that there was not much domestic exploration going on. So we're not going to get jobs in geology. So we started taking engineering courses. And I ended up getting a lot of engineering geology experience in the last year of college. And I had an engineering geology professor, Dr. Barney Pipkin, who lives up here in I think he lives in Palos Verdes Estates. Okay. But he took us on field trips that we took field trips to the landslide in 1985, and it was actively moving, and I was so impressed by that.
And who would have thought? Landslide that creeped inches a year.
Here I am, almost 40 years later, and I'm working on it big time.
Is this the most challenging project you've ever seen?
It is. It's very demanding. This is probably one of the largest active landslides in the world, especially one with houses on it, because it's 700 acres. It's over a square mile of land that's moving towards the ocean.
It's amazing to think that in the entire world, it's the most active area.
Yeah, there's landslides all over the world, but many of them are probably in very unpopulated areas that are happening, and we only detect them with instruments and remote sensing and air photos and things. But in a populated area, in a residential city, a small residential city, this is, like they said, this is bigger than we are.
Yeah.
And it's the amount of money that you need to try to take the measures to stop it or slow it down is extraordinary. And that's a big deal with the city, is trying to find more funding to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As we have to wrap it up here, anything you want to add that you think is important the residents understand right now and sort of your to-do list going forward?
The residents I find to be extremely resilient. I know some people have just decided to up and leave, and other people are literally camping in their homes right now.
Yeah.
And we're doing everything we can to try to slow this thing down. You know, the utility companies have said they want to see it moving back at a level that was sort of pre-2023, where it was just slowly creeping along. It was a manageable situation, you know, and it's really gas and electric. So there's going to be a little more time. We may see a few homes come back online at the end of this week. I've heard about that.
Excellent.
That were sort of outside the main movement, but I just think people need to continue to be patient, continue to be resilient. You know, they don't want us looking at their homes. I mean, many people are probably living in homes that are unsafe to live in. You know, and I hope everybody can stick it out and be patient, because we're accomplishing some really good things.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's so great. You're making excellent progress, so that's good. Mike, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it and all the great information.
Thank you for having me.
As a resident, all you're doing for this city, and helping get that important information.
Yeah, and it's
working
not
towards solutions.
It's not just me. I'm part of a huge team. My company and the other consultants that the city has hired, we're all working together on this.
Okay, well, we'll have you back and keep giving us updates as we go.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mike, and we'll be right back. You're watching Studio RPV. Will you be prepared when an earthquake hits? In Southern California, it's not a matter of if, but when an earthquake will happen. You may only have seconds to leave, so consider getting an emergency go bag like this one. Here you will find a 3-day supply of water and non-perishable food, light sticks, a first aid kit, an emergency tent and blanket. Other supplies you should have in your own go bag include a battery-operated radio, extra batteries, a charger, a flashlight, extra clothes, cash, medications, and any medical equipment you may need, such as hearing aids or reading glasses. It's also a great idea to keep shoes and a flashlight next to your bed in case an earthquake happens while you are sleeping. And for more information, you can always go to our website at rpvca.gov. We're always here to help, and remember, we are RPV together. You know, Liz, since the landslide, we have to be so aware of different kind of emergencies for sure and disasters.
Right. Our city is so proactive with our residents about emergency preparedness. And on October 17th at 10:17 in the morning, it's nationally earthquake, the Great Shakeout.
Yes.
I was here at City Hall where our staff did practice the drill. We all know drop, cover, and hold on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the things you want to do. But also it's beyond that. It's just, you know, being prepared.
Yes.
And having a plan and all that. Mm-hmm. So I know, you know, going through the drill, you know, I grew up on the East Coast. So earthquakes to me was something that happened out in California.
Of course, yes.
I did move here in '92, and a few years after was Northridge. You really felt that.
I did. It was 4:31 in the morning, and it's also so jarring when it wakes you up like that. But since then, I've learned to have a flashlight under my bed, make sure I have cash in my house. There were so many things that happened afterward that you didn't realize. There was no way to get gasoline, so I keep my car full of gas almost every night before I go to bed. I make sure I think of that because it's been all these years later, but you have to be aware. And we had a few shakes over the summer.
Yes, we did.
And it was strange because you would feel them coming on and you think, oh, wow, do I have to go under the doorway? And then thankfully it stopped. But you've got to have the go bag. We did the PSA for that, which I'm sure we'll be airing, and just so important to be ready. And Liz, we really do want to remind everyone that they can pick up a go bag at PVIC, great holiday gift, and then you might want to add a few things on your own, but so important to have that by the door, and also shoes under the bed, just all of those little things you don't think about. So
absolutely,
it's great.
You never can be ready enough. And I think one thing that was always said is if you're preparing for the emergency when it's happening,
it's too late.
You're not prepared.
Yeah, you've got to be there a little bit early. Now, you are prepared for the next story. You and Alex, your son, went to trunk or treat, and you didn't just go cover it, you were a part of it, Liz.
I have to say that, so our city does an annual trunk or treat. It's celebrating at Halloween time, the community coming together right here at the Kendida Civic Center, and of course we always cover it, and so be looking out for this on RPV TV, the coverage. But they wanted more trunks, so people decorate their trunks in theme. They were looking in the city staff for the Rec and Parks Department for more trunks out there, and I thought, I have a story. Let's do Toy Story. So yes, I came dressed as Jessie, that cowgirl from Toy Story.
So
and
great.
My son Alex, we're big fans anyway of going to Disney, he was Woody. And the kids were so excited to see it.
I'm sure they thought you were Disney characters right here at the Candidacia Civic Center.
So,
yes.
And everyone, big shout out to everyone that participates, the volunteers, community members that make their trunks, the staff. It's so wonderful, especially
Such a
at
great
these
event.
times. We need more feeling of celebrating
That's
when there's so
right.
much going on in our city.
And it's a community event. People come together, and even during trying times, you have to come together. So
Yeah.
And Liz, what was this thing about the mummy contest at Trunk or Treat?
They have
Tell
all
us
these
about
fun,
that.
they have puppet shows and all these fun things going on, including the mummy contest to wrap your mom like a mummy.
Like a mummy.
And of course, I was busy running around as Jessie, so these moms are such great sports, and the kids have so much fun. And
it's great.
They think of it all from the face painting to they have the jumpies and all the goodies. And Maria, they had popcorn. She loves her kettle corn.
My kettle corn is my favorite thing. Any of these events.
You were
so
just
good.
busy with the Dodgers, so that's why you had to miss all the fun.
Yes.
But you know what? A big shout out again to our Rec and Parks team for
They're
putting
so
this together.
great. I mean,
And,
they do such a good job.
Already thinking of my next year's costume.
Oh, she's way ahead of the game, way ahead of the game. And Liz, we love going to Trump National because they always whip something fun up for us to eat or drink at the holidays, and you had a chance to go there recently.
Yes, I did. They're always busy right now, and I had the chance to catch up with Chef Dante to find out about all of their November offerings. So let's join the chef.
Welcome to Trump National Golf Club. My name is Peter. I'm the executive chef here. In front of me, I have one of my favorite fall dishes, which is our duck confit. We cure a Muscovy duck leg for 24 hours and then poach it in duck fat. Finish it off in the pan to get it nice and crispy. Served with a classic white bean cassoulet and some Swiss chard, topped with a spiced orange glaze. And it's the perfect combination of comfort and elegance. Okay, so here at Trump, we're gearing up for our holiday season. We have a lot of exciting things coming up. Most notably our Thanksgiving ballroom brunch. We're going to feature live jazz music. We're also going to have a magician, a balloon artist. On the food side of things, we're going to have, of course, our roast turkey with all the trimmings, cranberry sauce, gravy, cornbread stuffing. We're also going to have a full hot breakfast buffet and assorted stations. We have a sushi station, prime rib carving station, crepes and waffle station, chocolate fountain, huge spread of salads, cheeses, and charcuteries, and a full raw bar featuring king crab legs, oysters, and shrimp cocktail. So come on out, there's something for everyone, but make your reservation soon because we are booking up. Last but not least, our bartending team is very excited for the upcoming holiday season. They're working on some drinks that feature a lot of holiday flavors. And in front of me here, I have an apple cider old fashioned made with rye and maple syrup and orange bitters. So cheers.
You know, Liz, I love watching the chef. Can you imagine if he was at your house every day cooking and baking? I would love that.
You'll need our personal chef. And this is just exciting to be at this time of year. We're going to be doing some baking
We
for the holidays
are.
right here on RPV
Right,
TV.
yes.
And it's just that sweet treat time of year.
Love it. Can't wait. Cannot wait. And that will do it for Studio RPV. Can you believe it? We're already at the end of the show.
All
Just
right.
goes by
We'll
so
be back.
quickly. Yeah, we're going to be back next month with lots of fun stuff for you. So thank you so much for watching, and go Dodgers. I'm Maria Serrao.
And I'm Liz Brown Swanson. See you next time right here on Studio RPV.